Hello, everyone. I'm North Hempstead Town Supervisor Judy Bosworth. In response to the COVID-19 pandemic, we have embarked on creating a virtual exercise series for our senior residents. We partnered with our Project Independence fitness instructors to host these virtual classes, which will allow you to stay fit and healthy by participating from the safety of your home. Please enjoy.
Okay, let's go. We're going to do some basic yoga. We're going to start standing. I mean, a lot of practice, a lot of times people start seated and then have to get up only to sit down again. But we're going to start standing and we'll slowly work our way to ground. The ground is very important in yoga. It's really it's the earth. It's the stability, our stability, what grounds us. You want to think of, everything we do, we want to think of rooting yourself down, pressing into the ground. And there's a law of inertia, everything then rebounds and lengthens away from the ground. So I want to think of lengthening my spine. I press my legs down, reaching my head to the ceiling. Just breathing. The legs should be firm the whole time that we're standing, even a lot of the times we're seated. I'm going to let your eyes close. I'm going to bring your hands to prayer. I'm just going to chant the sound Om one time. Om. Lower my hands down. I'm just going to, from here, with my eyes closed, I'm just going to get the sense of leaning from side to side. I want to find directly in the center. So each leg has an equal amount of weight in it, equally balanced. And let your eyes open. And we're just going to start to move the shoulders first. With the inhale, I take my arms around and up. Exhale, the arms come down. Starting off very simply. Again, the legs are firm. Think of the thighs working to lift the kneecaps up. It's good because you start to burn more calories when you do this. And besides being more stable, we're going to add a forward fold to this. So we're going to start slow. I'm going to use the chair to start with. So it's just bringing the ground up to me. So as I inhale, I come up. Exhale, I bring my hands down onto the ground, or in this case, the chair. And I lower as much as I can comfortably, not pushing it too much. The inhale, come up halfway. A half of a forward fold, then I'm going to go back into the full one, keeping my spine as straight as I can. I get a deeper stretch in the back of the legs. The inhale, I'm coming back up, and exhale, the arms down. I'm going to do that without the chair, because I'm going to reach a little further. Inhale, I take my feet are a little bit apart. As I inhale, I come up. It's easier to reach the ground when the feet are a little wider because I'm lower to the ground. Then I bring my hands down to the ground. I inhale. Again, I'm coming up halfway. You could even slide your hands up the leg or use the chair. I arch my spine, lift myself up, and then exhale, I lower back down. Inhale, I'm coming back up. exhale, back to center. This beginning of all our poses, our basic pose. So we're going to go a little bit into this. If you have a mirror, you can really check. You want a great alignment. The ears, my shoulder, hips, all this are in alignment. It's imagine like I'm back up against the wall. You can even try that. You may find it a little challenging to get the ears to come back over the shoulders. Is that forward lean, the head jut they call it. So I'm gonna start again. I'm gonna use the chair as I'm gonna add on again, a step back. So I'm gonna inhale, I take my arms up. Exhale, I'm gonna lower down, bringing my head all the way down towards the inhale, coming up halfway. And I'm gonna step back to plank pose. And then I'm gonna stretch my hips up and back, downward facing dog pose. Yes, definitely easier with my hands on the chair. The ground is up to me. Just gonna hold this for a few breaths. My fingers are pressing down. My thighs press back. My breathing as calm and softly as I can, remembering to exhale as much as you can. Inhale and exhale. That's the yoga secret to calming the nervous system. I'm going to come out. I'm going to come forward, back into the half forward fold. And exhale, I lower back down. Inhale, I'm coming up. And exhale back to center. Yes, I definitely would recommend if you can look at yourself in a mirror or stand up with your back against the wall just to see where your spine is. So right now we're going to go instead of forward and back, we're going to go side to side, coming into these standing postures, as I like to call them. We're going to take a wide step out with each leg. So wide is relative to what's wide for you. A general rule is when my arms are up, my hands should be over my feet. I'm a little less than that now, which means it's not going to be as quite as intense. I'll show that in a minute. We're going to come to Warrior Two. So I'm going to turn to the right. So I'm going to turn my left foot in, turn my right leg out 90 degrees. I bend the front knee. I can just glance down. I can see my knee is coming right over my foot and over the ankle. But I want to look at the fingers of your front hand. And we're going to breathe here. That's 2 breaths. Three. 4. 5. I'm going to come up. I'm going to straighten my front leg. I'm going to turn to the other side. Warrior Two. Second side. You see, I don't have to. I've already looked at my knees. It looks good. This is 2 breaths. Because you want to be focused. Yoga is about bringing your awareness inside. 3. That's 4. 5. I'm going to come up. I'm going to come back to center, bringing my hands onto the hips. Now I'm going to bring my hands down to the ground. Again, you can use the chair. You can have the chair in front of you if the ground is too far away. I'm going to, again, I press my legs down. My legs are firm, even though you may not see it from here. There's a slight bend in my knees. I exhale. I'm going to fold forward, folding at my hips right here. My back is flat. Bringing my head down to the ground. Maybe you can put your hands onto the ground. You can try to come up maybe a little bit. Lengthen your spine. And then exhale. Going back down deeper, if possible. That's 1 breath. 2. 3, 4, 5. Inhale, I come up halfway. I'm going to bring my hands onto the hips and then come all the way back up to stand. Going to side angle pose. Back to the right. I'm going to come through warrior two. So I'm going to turn my feet to the right. My front leg turns out 90 degrees. I'm going to bend my front knee. From warrior two, I'm going to hinge at my hip again, bring in my arm on top of the leg or to the floor. The other arm can come up alongside the ear, up overhead. You can even say if your shoulder hurts, you can keep your hand here. I like it alongside my head. And I turn my head gently to look up at my hand. That's 2 breaths. 3, 4, 5. Oh, coming back up through warrior two. I flip my feet around. Warrior two. I hinge over, side angle. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Coming back up, coming back into center. We're going to do a lot of stretching for the back of the legs and our body. So eventually maybe we can fold forward. As I said, the wider the legs are apart, the easier it is to reach the ground. Maybe by the end of the class, we'll be able to bring our hands to the ground. Another forward fold. This time, I'm going to take my arms out to the side. I'm going to interlock my fingers behind my back, arch my spine, roll my shoulders back, and then I'm going to bring my head all the way down towards the ground. I lift my arms up over my shoulders. That's inhale, that'll be your first breath. 2, my legs are firm. 3, 4, 5. Coming all the way up. My hands to the hips. Okay. Moving on, I'm going to come into the triangle pose. Just one we'll do, maybe do a second variation later. I'm turning my legs out. This time my legs are just about completely straight, as straight as they can be comfortably. My legs are firm. I take my arms out to the side, up shoulder height, and I'm folding from my hip crease. As I fold forward, I bring my hand down onto the leg, the knee, the shin, maybe the floor. And maybe you can turn and look up at your hand. That's 1 breath. 2, 3, 4, 5. All the way back up. On my inhale, now my the next exhale, I should be coming into the second pose, second side. I'm just going to take a little pause here, let everybody catch up, and I'm going to turn to the side. I'm going to fold up. See, my hips go back. I'm folding right here into my hip crease, bringing my hand down onto the leg, the floor, and I look up at if you can, that's 1 breath. 2, 3, 4, 5. Coming up to center, hands to the hips. Okay, one more of these wide leg forward folds, and maybe we'll start to bring our feet closer together and do it. Maybe the hands will touch the floor by this time, as we should be getting nice and long. This time I'm going to be similar to the first, but this time I'm going to slide my hands down the outside of the legs. Move down deep into this pose. And make sure as I come deep, I want to make sure my back is flat. So I try to arch it and then maybe go deeper. Maybe I can touch my ankles, maybe my feet. Maybe I can bring my hands onto my toes. That's one breath. 2, 3, 4, 5. Coming up halfway, lengthening my spine. I come all the way back up. And I'm going to bring my feet back together. Come to stand. I'm going to come to our balanced pose. We're going to start the way we started, with the eyes closed, just getting that sense of where your body is. Notice when you close your eyes, it's a little bit less stable. The eyes are very important in our balance, but without the eyes, we start to develop other senses that help us balance. Our inner ears, our proprioceptors. So I'm shifting the weight around, so I want to get the weight so I feel even in both legs. I lean forward and back, so I'm not leaning all the way forward or all the way back. The weight should be right over the arches. And let my eyes open. Come into tree pose. I'm going to shift the weight into my left leg. I'll take my right leg up, out to the side, bringing my foot into my calf below the knee, my hands to prayer. If this gets to be too difficult, you can bring your toes onto the ground. If you want to make this harder, you can bring your foot into your leg above the knee, just not into the knee. Because we want to be pushing your foot into the leg, and the leg pushes back. You don't want to put that pressure into your knee. So it's above the knee or below. I invite you to try to challenge your balance. So slowly I'm going to move, as slow as I can. As I start to move, it gets a little bit more difficult to balance. Moving slowly, I'm going to come back out, back to center, and then I stand. Ooh, I feel different on one leg than the other. Okay, so not being afraid of the instability. That's where the option is the ability to become stronger, to develop a better sense of balance. It's the recovery from imbalance. So I'm going to go the other side. So I'm going to shift the weight into my right leg as I take my left leg up, out to the side. Again, the toes can be on the ground. Hands to prayer. A little more challenging. The foot comes into the calf below the knee. Much more challenging. You bring your foot up above the knee. Squeezing my legs together. Whoops. Like I'm trying to squeeze into a tight jeans that I wore back in the summer. I want to get that sense of core strengthening. Maybe I'll take my arms up if I can maintain the balance. Oops, I came out. Okay, so then I just start over again. just to come back to the balance. It's like I said, the recovering from the instability is where there's room for growth, to become more stable. Okay, we're going to go back to our chair. So again, it's possible to do this without the chair, but then you're going to have to bring your hands onto the floor. Maybe not everybody's ready for that yet. I'm going to stand up close to the chair, and I'm going to take a step back with my left leg. My left leg steps back. I square my hips off like I'm facing the chair, and I'm going to take my left hand onto the chair. I'm going to take, first I take the left leg arm up, and then I turn to my right. So I can even want to turn from your ribs, your torso. I'm going to bring your hand down onto the chair. The inhale, I take the right arm up. And I'm coming down, and I'm stepping back up, and we're going to back up, then prepare for the second side. So this is similar to the revolved triangle. It's a little different because I'm bringing my hands onto the chair, which makes it a lot easier. Because eventually you want the hand to come to the outside of the opposite leg. Not easy. You can use blocks and things like that to bring the ground up to you, but in this case, I'm using the chair. I'm taking my right arm up, and I'm going to turn to my left. I can even my hand. I want to get that sense of my rib cage, every vertebrae turning, and then I bring my hand down onto the chair. My left arm comes up. Lowering down. I'm going to step back up. Coming to stand. Okay. Going to move along. Again, you can move the chair out of the way, but just a little bit good. I'm going to show. We're going to come into the chair pose. So I want to bring my hips down, like I'm going to sit in the chair, but not quite touch. I want to bring my hips down as low as my knee, which the chair is a little bit lower than that. My feet are hip width apart, and I'm going to bring my hips down. So with the chair pose, a lot of people push their knees forward and go like this, creating a little bit of stress onto the knees, and doing it a lot will start to create pain in the knee. So I bring my hips back. I'm using the muscles, the big muscles in the back of my legs and my back. I take my arms up. So I'm up pretty high. With practice, you can and you get stronger, you can bring your hips down to maybe as high as your hips. See, I almost fell back, which is I'm going the right way, but the chair was there to catch me. And coming up. Yes, I definitely recommend regularly to doing this pose. So that, we do it every time we sit down. Then we have to stand back up. We're using these muscles. This way we do this, we'll keep them strong. Okay, we'll come back. We're going to come into what we started. So again, with using the chair as a ground to step back. Or if you feel you're ready, you're going to bring your hands to the floor. So you can make your feet wide. Again, not quite as wide as before, but we maybe can touch the ground at this point, now that the muscles are nice and warmed up and become a little more stretchy. I'm going to stand at the front of my mat, and we're going to come back into the downward dog. So my legs are firm. I'm pushing the ground away. I inhale. I take my arms up. Exhale. I'm folding forward, bringing my head down towards the ground. full forward fold. And I inhale, coming up halfway. I'm going to step back to downward dog pose. So I have to ground my hands. If you can't put your palms on the floor, you'll have to bend the knees or walk your hands forward. So I'm going to step back, right leg, left leg. I'm in this inverted V we call downward dog. And we just breathe here. Full exhales. I'm pressing into I'm really using my fingers more than I use the heel of my hand. I press my thighs back. So my hands are going forward, forward and down. My thighs are pressing back and up. And I'm going to add another pose. I'm going to add a plank pose. So I'm coming into plank. It should be a little wider, a little longer actually. Plank pose. This is for people that want to get more strength in their torso. We're going to work on a more difficult ones for some people that may want more. You get tired, downward dog, and I'm bringing the weight into my legs, which are stronger than the arms, still even less intensity. I can come into the child's pose. I'm going to come back up, working my way back to my standing pose. I curl my toes in. I lift my hips up and back, pressing my thighs back, reaching my fingers forward. And I'm going to step forward. I did right and then left. And I fold down. Inhale, taking the arms around and up, back to our beginning pose. We're going to do one more. We're going to make it a little bit more challenging if you're feeling this is getting to be a little too much, using the chair, or skipping the next one we're going to add on. Those two more poses. It's the push-up, we call in yoga chaturanga, and then the upward dog. Again, using the chair would be a little easier because the ground is bringing the ground up. So this time I'm going to step back left leg then right leg. I just like to do about the same on both sides. With my inhale, I take the arms up. Exhale, I reach for the ground. Inhale, I come up halfway. So you can go back to down dog, or you can come into plank, and we'll go through that chaturanga. Doing it the easier way, I lower my knees gently down, and then I lower my torso slowly down. My inhale, baby cobra. If you straighten your arms and legs, it's upward dog, and then going back to downward dog. We generally hold for 5 breaths here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to come back forward, halfway up, and then all the way back down. Inhale, I come all the way back up, back to this pose, this standing pose, the beginning. This may be the most important pose because we're getting this alignment of our spine. We tend, through gravity and just through, because everything we do is in front of us, we tend to want to round. So we're going to work on that a little bit now as we come to the ground. So we're going to come to sit. However you sit down, I'm going to bring my hands down. I bend my knees. I'm going to take one leg behind the other. And I just come to sit. I stretch my legs out in front. I press my legs down. I draw my toes back. My hands are right behind my hips. Even when you're in this posture, very easy to start to round. Yeah, really hard work. It doesn't look, but your legs have to really work. My hands are not only pushing down, they're kind of like sliding back, so I lift my chest up. The chin may want to come up with it. You want to keep your chin parallel to the ground. I'm just breathing here. This is a real pose. This is our staff pose, our basic of all our seated postures. So it's real pose. This is placed, we're going to work a little bit, and we're going to return to this in between every pose. So I'm going to come into a stretch for the back of the leg. I'm going to take my right foot into my inner left thigh. My knee reaches towards the ground, and I'm going to twist. I'm going to turn my ribs to the side. My left hand comes behind me. I'll take my right arm up, trying to reach my right hand onto the inside of the left leg or foot. The left hand comes to the outside. Try to keep the back flat. The desire is to round, bring the head down. Try to lengthen the spine. Don't be in a rush to bring your head onto your leg. You get much more of a stretch up here. And eventually it may happen. You practice this regularly, your body gets stronger and longer, and eventually anything can happen. Coming up, and come back to center. Well, just really such a great postures. Not easy sitting on the floor. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I take my left leg in. It's kind of like my shoulders turn to the left, kind of followed it. So I got to turn my shoulders to the right. My right hand becomes behind me. My left arm comes up. And I start turning more and more to my right as I reach my left hand out to grab for the leg. The right arm comes to the outside. I inhale, I lengthen, and then exhale, I come fully into the pose. That's 1. 2. 3. 4. 5. Coming all the way back up. And we're going to do both legs at the same time. Much more difficult. My legs are firm. I'm lengthening my spine upward. I take my arms up and I'm going to reach for my legs, my big toes. And again, lengthening the spine. It's okay to have a little bend in your knees. Maybe a little less stress in the back of the legs and a little more of a stretch for the hips. I can exhale, I come into the pose. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm coming all the way back up. Finding this posture, this pose, and coming into our more seated postures. So taking my right leg into my chest. My right foot is on the floor about a hand's distance from the left leg. It's really my legs and feet are hip distance apart. I'm staying here. I'm pressing my legs down into the ground, my foot into the ground, so I lengthen my spine upward. So it's fine to stay here. You're getting a lot of work, a lot of stretch. If you want to come deeper, you can hinge forward. So it's good if you have that space between the legs, you can bring your chest inside. Maybe your arm can come onto the shin. So I'm pushing my arm into the leg. The result of that is to lengthen my spine away from the hips. And coming back up, coming to center. Second side, taking my left leg in, lengthen my spine up by pressing down, lengthening upward. Exhale, if you want to go deeper, I hinge forward. And again, if you want to go even deeper, the arm comes on the inside of the leg. It presses into the leg. The leg pushes back, trying to lengthen the spine. Okay, coming up, back, finding the posture. It's easy to start to lose the posture. The lower back likes rounding for me anyway. Okay, a little deeper on this pose. I'm going to take my right leg in again. This time I'm going to turn and come into a twist. I take my left arm around the right leg and I turn and twist, looking over my right shoulder. That's one breath. 2, 3, 4, 5. Coming out, back into center. Second side. Breathe. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The center. I'm going to bend my knees and I'm going to lower onto the ground. So the slower you go down, go back and down, the more work you're going to do. You could even hold your legs and lower down. You could even try playing coming back up for people that want a little bit more of a workout in. And you can get, if you get really strong, you can do this without holding on. Some people can come all the way down and come back up. Or you may just want to lower down. We're going to come into the bridge pose. So those poses work a lot of muscle strength in the midsection. We're going to do a bridge pose, which will stretch all of this. I bring my feet in a little more. The more you bring the feet in, the harder this is going to, more intense this is going to be. So I'm going to press my feet down. I lift my tailbone. I come up. And I'm going to interlock my fingers and hold my arms underneath me. This is the shape the opposite shape that we normally do throughout the rest of our lives. We tend to round forward. Now we're rounding backward. So we need to really spend a little bit more time on this because we're not going to do this for very long. This is about 4 breaths. And 5, but I'm going to hold it a little longer. I'm going to press down because most of the rest of my day, until the next time I'm going to practice yoga later, I'm going to tend to round. That's not good. We don't want to be rounded. I'm going to lower down. My tailbone coming down last. So if this is, if you're finding this to be discomforting on your back, you may want to stop and just start rounding by bringing your knees in to your chest. You want to make this more intense. I'm going to bring my feet in a little closer to my hips. So I grab my fingers on the front of my shins. I pull my feet down and lift my hips up. Again, let's inhale. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thinking of relaxing. Think of the exhale. 6. This is about letting go. And then lower down. Not making it about working, about relaxing, letting go. And you stretch these muscles. I'm going to do one more. Welcome to any time, again, if your back is bothering you, you can let go, you can stop it here. I'm coming up a little less this time. This is stretching everything from the top of my knees into my hips, through my torso, even into my shoulders. All places that tend to get a little bit tight as a result of that, and they tend to become a little shorter. Muscles will constrict, that's their nature. If we keep doing that though, they won't go back to its normal length. And I'm going to lower down, and now I am going to start some rounding. I'm gently bringing my knees, I'm not bringing them all the way in. I'm just going to rock side to side, little circles one way and then the other. Eventually I'll get my knees a little closer into my chest. I'm not coming in from I don't recommend coming all the way from a deep arching position into a round. I'm going to just bring my right leg in. I slide my left leg away and press it down. Then I can maybe bring my right knee in a little more. Pay a little extra attention to your exhales as we're going towards relaxation. I'm going to switch legs, taking my left leg in, stretching the right leg away. Taking both legs back in again. I'm going to take a simple twist. I'm going to straighten my left leg. I'm going to take my right knee to the floor. I hook my foot behind the knee. I'm trying to keep my right shoulder as close to the ground as possible, using my left hand to encourage the right leg to come in a little deeper. Up, and I'm going to go to the other side. I switch legs. You don't have to have the foot behind the knee. If it's too much, you can put your foot in front, go on top. My shoulder, I'm trying to bring my left shoulder to the floor as my left leg goes to the right. Using the right arm gently to encourage this twist. Now coming up. I'm going to bring my knees back into my chest, maybe a little bit further. Take a deep inhale. I'm going to complete exhale. I'm going to bring my knees and my nose as close as I can, rounding, working all the muscles in the front of my torso, and then exhale. I'm going to release, let every muscle go, and just flop everything down, coming into our resting pose. Okay. Stay, I would recommend, for at least another 5 minutes, and see you next time. Stay.